Last week, Poland held parliamentary elections, and I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking to you about why Poland is so important and why these elections, while they're not that big of a deal, happened in the context of geopolitics going really well for Poland for the first time in generations. So, what happened in the first place? The conservative, sort of right leaning and Eurosceptic Law and Justice Party has ruled Poland since the 2015 elections. They won elections again in 2019. They are still the largest party after this parliamentary election. They'll probably be given a chance to try and form a government. But they saw their voter share decline from 43.6% in 2019 to 35.4% in 2023. And that means they are not going to have the votes necessary to assemble a majority. And that means that Donald Tusk is probably going to be the next prime minister of Poland, and the Polish opposition is going to take over. Now, Law and Justice, or PIS as it is known, has always had a difficult political balancing act. They are more Eurosceptic. They've aligned Poland, generally speaking, within the EU with Hungary, although that relationship broke down a little bit after the Russia-Ukraine war, despite the fact that Poland is one of the most Europhilic countries in the entire European Union. Poles absolutely love the European Union and want closer ties with the European Union. The thing about Law and Justice was it appealed to that center-right conservatism within Polish society, and it also was a very, very populist party and was very effective in getting that message out among Polish voters. So now Donald Tusk will probably take over as prime minister going forward, and Poland is probably going to be much more aligned with Brussels and going to be much more cooperative with countries like Germany and France as it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war, as it comes to European Union reform and expansion and things like that. This is called the so-called Weimar Triangle, and it opens up that now that Germany and France don't have to worry as much about Poland being a stumbling block for some of their reforms, they can work together maybe more productively with Poland going forward with their shared vision of the future. That said, though, I actually don't think the elections are that important in the grand scheme of things. Every democratic election should be celebrated with a peaceful transition of power, and I think we're going to see that in Poland as well, where a party that's been ruling for a long time gives way to the opposition. But the fact is, the geopolitical fundamentals of Poland are really, really favorable right now. As much as everyone focuses on the PIS's battle with the European Union, it doesn't really matter because, as I said, 89% roughly of the Polish electorate wants to engage with the EU, has a positive view of the European Union. So even as PIS wanted to push back against the European Union, if they had won this election, they wouldn't have been able to push back that much, because if they did, they probably would have even less than 35.4% of the vote. Secondly, from a geopolitical standpoint, Poland has its strongest position in 400 years. Full stop. And I'm not exaggerating. Eras of Polish strength and prosperity depend on two things happening. Powers that surround them have to be either unable or unwilling to take advantage of Poland's geopolitical vulnerabilities. Those two great powers historically are Russia or Germany. And Russia is unable to take advantage of Poland, and Germany seems, quite frankly, unwilling to take advantage of Poland. It's not about to invade Poland to defend German supply chains or anything like that. So Russia's invasion of Ukraine actually exacerbated Russia's weakness, and it gives Poland the opportunity to be the dominant power of Eastern Europe, which is not something Poland has been able to aspire to for literally centuries. The Russia-Ukraine war has also come with an unanticipated demographic dividend for Poland. Poland had some of the worst demographics in the European Union from an aging perspective. It was one of the oldest countries in the European Union, and lots of Poles were leaving the country for opportunities elsewhere. But somewhere between 4 to 7 million Ukrainian refugees have come to Poland since the war began, and most of them are educated women and children. And one poll said that 61% of refugees actually plan to stay in Poland for the foreseeable future. If you go back to the history of Poland and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, parts of what are present-day Ukraine were historically part of Polish empires in the past. My own family, actually, if you go back to my grandparents, born in parts of in towns that are today part of Ukraine, but at the time were actually part of Poland. So even personally, geopolitics intersects here with my own life. And even before the Russia-Ukraine war, Poland was riding high. And it was riding high because Poland was one of the biggest beneficiaries of Germany's industrial supply chains expanding into Eastern Europe. So Germany's an export machine. It has to export more and more and more to other countries, but the cost of labor goes up within Germany and things like that. So as Germany expands and as the European Union expands, it took advantage of cheap and well-skilled labor from Poland, and that meant serious investment in Poland going forward. Poland also has ample coal reserves and more extensive mining experience than other countries that are in Eastern Europe, which also gives it some level of opportunity. And last but not least, if Ukraine is eventually going to get into the European Union, and the EU has talked about giving Ukraine candidate status, Poland is the country that is in line probably to help rebuild Ukraine. And you've already seen Polish companies stand up and say, we want to be the ones to go in. Consortiums of Polish construction companies who are looking past the war right now and thinking about how Poland can help build Ukraine, probably with European Union funds in general. So I'm not saying the elections aren't important, and they certainly affect things like EU reform and Warsaw's position relative to Berlin and Paris, like that. But this is one of those scenarios where this is democratic politics, and elections come and go and parties come and go. What doesn't come and go are these geopolitical fundamentals. And for the first time in centuries, literal centuries, Poland's geopolitical fundamentals look good. So, from an investment opportunity, from a geopolitical opportunity, Poland looks very set to enjoy some tailwinds here going forward. And it's one of the reasons I focus on Poland so much, and will continue to focus on Poland going forward.